We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And welcome back to Liberty Nation Radio here on the Radio America Network. Sometimes the politicos and their supporters in the Fourth Estate let on far more than they know. Damned by their own words, if you will. From the sublimely ridiculous to the tone-deaf, these travellers in the political sphere are always more than willing to let slip the most riotous and damnable things. And sometimes there's the occasional bright spark who tells the story exactly as it is. Now, we're very lucky to have long-time host of this here radio show and senior political analyst for LibertyNation.com, Mr. Tim Donner, to host our special year-end Say What signature segment. Now, Tim has been gathering the grandest and most grimace-inducing comments from the major players of 2021. Buckle up, it's going to get very, very bumpy. Tim, thanks for being here. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And as we look ahead to 2022, we also bid farewell to a year in which a triumphant new president addressed the nation on July 4th, proclaiming victory over COVID-19, fulfilling his campaign promise that he would end the once-every-century pandemic, only to see his presidency come apart at the seams a month later with a resurgent virus and an ill-conceived, disastrous surrender in Afghanistan, the effects of which this president has yet to shake off, a border crisis of his own making, a crime wave across urban America, and inflation which has grown from a concern to a fear as his approval falls as low as the 30s in 3 separate polls approaching year's end. The most painful of the problems Joe Biden carries over from the old year to the new is inflation, which serves as a tax on every financial transaction by every single person in the country. It's now up near 7%. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell finally admitted near the end of the year that transitory is no longer an appropriate description of the problem. And Charles Payne of Fox Business says shame on him for suggesting for so long that it is.
It's embarrassing for the Federal Reserve, the folks who are in charge of our money, to be this wrong this long. This inflation issue is not going to go away overnight. It's persistent and it's insidious. In the Dallas area, you have the highest prices ever paid for raw materials, ever. Wages are going up, and they're at the highest prices, place at the spike that they've been. More money goes into the system, prices go up, and the person out there, the average person, is getting nowhere. Right. So the check looks a little bit bigger, and it is. But the simplest way to understand this is you actually go in the store with more money in your pocket and come out with fewer bags.
Unless and until inflation is brought to heel, there's no chance Joe Biden's approval will rise, especially now that COVID has reared its head again with what looks like another winter onslaught. Now, even though vaccine mandates in blue states have produced higher death rates than in mandate-free red states, the power-hungry control freaks on the left can best be typified by the utterly clueless financial commentator on CNBC, famous for being wrong in most all of his financial predictions, now straying into areas he knows nothing about and calling for the most extreme measures. Jim Cramer.
It's time to admit that we have to go to war against COVID. Require vaccination universally. Have the military run it. If you don't want to get vaccinated, you better be ready to prove your conscientious objector status in court. And even then, you need to help in the war effort by staying home until we finally beat this thing.
I knew you wouldn't believe me if I didn't play it for you. That complete loser lefty calling for using the military to force every American to get vaccinated or go to court or stay home until they do get the jab. It's that kind of thinking that has the Democrats in general, and this 46th president in particular, sucking swamp water, as they say, in the polls. But the one thing that united the left these last years was Donald Trump, and they're at it again, scaring people with a dystopian vision of a restored Trump in the Oval Office. And who better to sound the alarm than the woman who's certain Trump stole the election from her in 2016 and is now certain he'll be running again.
I mean, he seems to be setting himself up to do that. And if he's not held accountable, then he gets to do it again. I think that could be the end of our democracy. Not to be too, pointed about it, but I want people to understand that this is a make or break point. If he were, or someone of his ilk, were once again to be elected president, and if especially he had a Congress that would do his bidding, you will not recognize our country.
Note how she says someone of Trump's ilk, i.e., any candidate who follows the agenda of a former president with overwhelming approval in his own party, even after the ugliness of 2020. But the left has been concocting all manner of conspiracy theories about the evil orange man. Exhibit A was a recent article in The Atlantic titled, "Trump's Next Coup Has Already Begun," by progressive Bart Gellman.
January 6th was not an isolated event. It was part of a coherent plan and conspiracy to overthrow the results of the last election that went on for considerable time before and after January 6th. Republican operatives working on Trump's behalf, they're seeking out all of the public officials who said no to the coup last time, who said, no, we won't change the vote count. They're taking those people and they are either hounding them out of office or they are making them irrelevant by passing new laws that take the power away from that office.
So as Donald Trump plots a second coup d'etat, at least in the minds of terrified leftists, criminals are running wild in the streets of progressive-run cities, empowered by defunded and dispirited police, lenient bail and catch-and-release laws. San Francisco Mayor London Breed pretended that making one tough speech will change years of disastrous liberal policies that have destroyed the once great city.
It comes to an end when we take the steps to be more aggressive with law enforcement, more aggressive with the changes in our policies, and less tolerant of all the bull that has destroyed our city.
And right after the San Francisco mayor said that, Nancy Pelosi pretended she had no idea what's causing the crime wave.
It's absolutely outrageous. Obviously, it cannot continue. But the fact is that there is an attitude of lawlessness in our country that springs from I don't know where.
Your policies, Madam Speaker, your policies. But we close with the Speaker's head shaker about our 46th president.
Our country could not be better served than with this most experienced, capable hands than yours, President Biden. He's just perfect.
But will Joe Biden be as perfect in 2022 as in 2021, Mark? Back to you.
Well, that depends on what one's definition of perfect is, as Bill Clinton might have said. Thanks for being here, Tim, and a very happy new year to you. Well, folks, the show's not over yet. Coming up after this short break, we're talking liberty with Mr. Scott D. Cosenza, Esquire.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides. Who are we? We are Americans that believe in liberty. We are a project of the nonprofit One Generation Away. We are patriots who apply the founding principles to the issues of today.
And they keep moving the goalposts on us.
We are educators and commentators who love America and the Constitution. Who are we? We are Liberty Nation.